Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are because I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Baltimore Fats, and this is Bamgoogled. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to jump right in. One day last week, I was kind of putzing around on my phone using Google Earth, and I came across a very interesting feature on Antarctica. And so it's a little bit tricky to find, so I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. And here it is coming into view, and you see it right here. I don't know if you caught that corner clip. It's this little white dot, right? And so we're going to get up a little bit closer to it, and you can kind of see, right? This is a spot where they join the animations. I thought that was kind of cool, all right? It's got this like Pac-Man shape, and the closer you get in on it, you see that there's like another, like there's a second line in here. And so the closer you get, it becomes a cross. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, what are the animators trying to tell us with this cross at this union point of animations on Google Earth? Yeah, I thought that was really kind of curious. There's got to be a reason for that, whatever it is. So I wanted to see if I could find it on Google Earth Pro, and I can, and here it is. It looks a lot different. The animation is better. But here you can see the Pac-Man thing, and when you get up really super close on it here, it doesn't come to that. There's no cross in it, right? And so I thought that was really curious, and I wanted to find out more about sort of Google Earth and Google in general. What could I find just by rabbit holing around Google for a little while? I thought that would be a fun way to kill some time, which I had a couple of hours yesterday afternoon, so I kind of rabbit holed this to see if there was anything in there. And sure enough, I think I got a great little video out of this. So Google Earth, of course, is right up front. It says that it's a computer program. It renders 3D representation of Earth, a 3D representation. That's all it says, based on primarily on satellite imagery, aerial photography, and GIS data. All right, and so a geographical information system, GIS, is a system designed to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and present spatial or geographic data. So what it's saying is that they're feeding pictures into Google Earth's program, and it's spitting out the images that it's programmed to spit out. I mean, they could be putting in pictures of their backyards, as far as I'm concerned, right? Or as far as anyone knows, right? And the Google Earth program is making a 3D representation of the globe. So it's like, okay, so what else can we find out about Google? Of course, what is there to know? I mean, it's ubiquitous with society today. Google is everywhere, right? And it was founded by these guys. I'm going to talk about them, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, right? But one thing I wanted to mention is they talk about in here that it was started in a garage. Oh, and this is a great look at this. Look at Sergey Brin here with his horn, right? That's unbelievable. But it says it started out of the garage of this friend, Susan Wojcicki. And turns out she's more than a friend. She becomes a sister-in-law of Sergey. He marries Susan's sister somewhere down the line. So they keep it in the family. And somewhere else I found that she charged them $1,700 a month for her garage space. That's unbelievable. They could have gotten a way better deal by going to a self-storage unit and probably had better security too. But when I read that, it made me think, wasn't Microsoft started in a garage, right? And so there's these top 7 startups, right? Google is number 1, right? Hewlett Packard, right? And then we get Maglite, which is kind of interesting. We have Amazon and Mattel, toy company, all right? Microsoft, and then Apple. So 5 of the top 7 on this list are computer companies, all started in a garage. And now, to me, that's telling. There's something about the garage, and I don't know what it is, but there's more than coincidence that all of these computer startup companies are starting out of garages. There's got to be. So I wanted to look at the people a little bit. Who are these people? Who is Larry Page, right? And we're going to get to, I'm just going to skip right ahead to his early life. All right. And he was born in Michigan, right? And his father was a doctor of computer science, which he earned from the University of Michigan when the field was being established. So right at Jump Street, he's in there, right? And his mother was an instructor of computer programming at Lyman Briggs College and at Michigan State University. So when I read that, and again, this is, I can't speculate on these people's lives or anything, but just on the outside looking in, it makes me think, there's some grooming going on here, two super bright computer programmers. If we had a kid, that would be a supercomputer programmer, wouldn't it? And he talks about his childhood being filled with, his house being filled with computer parts and things like this. So he always knew he was going to be an inventor, and he's a musician, and he attends this Montessori school, Okemos, Michigan, and he graduates and he goes on to get a bachelor's of science in computer engineering from the University of Michigan, which I know somewhere back in the past I mentioned the military ties in the University of Michigan. There are quite a few military ties to the University of Michigan, right? He gets a master's of science in computer science from Stanford. But while he's at Michigan, and this is where the story gets interesting, he's president of this Eta Kappa Nu fraternity. What is Eta Kappa Nu? Right? And it's an honor society of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Right? And look at their crest here. Right? We've got the eye and the two triangles, or the two pyramids in the circle. Right? Their shield has this fist with lightning bolts, 10 of them for the 10 founding members. It's got the catamus, and it's got these geometric shapes. I don't know what to make of those. So it's pretty interesting that he's president of this, right? And they said it started in 1904. And I'm not going to get too much into the history, but this symbol is supposed to be a representation of a circuit board, like part of a circuit board. Electronics mumbo jumbo that I don't understand. But what I really wanted to get to was okay, so if he's the president, well, who else was a member of this fraternity, right? So you look at the prominent members, and you start going through, and you see that, just look at some of these names and who they are associated with, right? Founder of Hotmail here. We got the founder of Bose speakers and stereo equipment, the founder of Illumina, founder of Yahoo, Intel, inventor of Intel, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, Google engineer here, Sumitomo Electric. It just goes on and on. It's unbelievable, right? These guys from Google all come out of here. The co-founder of Apple comes out of course. Apple started out of a garage too. No coincidence there, right? And they have these leaders of engineering and academia. It's unbelievable. The alumni to this fraternity, and look at the list of astronauts. They have 6 astronauts who come out of there as well. So that's really amazing. At least so I thought. That Larry Page would come out of this. He was definitely groomed for success in this industry. No doubt about it, right? That's the way I have to look at it. And so when I see the Wheatstone Bridge is the name of that circuit breaker, but I wanted to put the abbreviation into a gematria calculator, and it's unbelievable. In the English ordinal, it comes out to 33. No coincidence there, right? I thought that was an interesting little bit of information there, right? And so he goes through, he gets through Michigan and his presidency of that fraternity, and he goes to Stanford where he meets Sergey, and they co-found the search engines for Stanford and move that. Once that becomes too successful, they move into the garage of Susan Wojcicki, or whatever her name was, right? And so let's find out about Sergey a little bit, because again, there's no need at this point to go into, everybody knows what Google is and, how ubiquitous it is. It's no secret, all right? But, some of the connections that could be made by the people who start it, although while not secret, certainly not something that's really well known or really, dots are connected, at least not in any of the videos that I've seen. Right? And so he has an interesting story. He's born in Russia. Let's get to him, right? And he is now the CEO of Alphabet Inc., which is the umbrella company for Google. right? So it never really goes away. And he's worth $50 billion. He gets $1 a year salary from Google, right? And so, but in his early life, he's born in Russia, right? To parents, his father, both his parents were graduates of Moscow State University, and once they get out of Russia and go to America, his father becomes a mathematics professor at University of Maryland, and his mother a researcher at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Are you kidding me? That's what it's unbelievable. And the story is kind of interesting. Like the father goes to some mathematics conference in Warsaw, and when he comes back from that, he's like, "We got to get out of here," right? And he gets fired. He files for an exit visa from Russia, and he promptly gets fired from his job. And his mother leaves her job for harassment reasons. That makes me think, right? And so they have to wait around like a year or so, not even. And they talk about how tough it is, but something about this makes me think this is an arranged thing. If not, if Russia or Russian people organizations or whatever weren't complicit in it, he had help otherwise to get out of there because he promptly lands in Vienna and Paris. And then this guy, who I did rabbit hole a little bit, but it's not that important really to the story today, gets him a job at the University of Maryland. All right, so he it's also an interesting coincidence that Brin attends a Montessori school as well. And now, if you're not familiar with what Montessori schools are, is they are it's a learning program based on observing the students and allowing the students to pursue their own interests and helping those students along. And it's really designed for the gifted, no doubt about it, right? And gifted students do really well in there. But other students, and I have friends that I know who's sent their children to Montessori school here in Baltimore, have taken their kids out of it because they feel that their kids aren't prepared for the social stresses in everyday life, because they're not having a very social experience that they would have in a rigid, uniform kind of experience that regular public school offers children. The indoctrination effect, I guess. I don't know. So it's kind of interesting that they kind of have these similar backgrounds, right? And he comes out of Maryland, like I said, and he ends up at Stanford, and they form their company. But what really gets interesting is after they form their company and they they do an IPO and they make billions of dollars, what happens then, right? And that's what kind of propels this story ahead to where it needs to go. And I could go on about the efforts that they have, and perhaps if there's time, maybe I'll do like a wayside video for this one as well. But what I really want to get to is his other interests here, right? And this is what I think the wayside will be about this Google org, if I do one. But somewhere in here, it states that Brin invested $4.5 million in Space Adventures, the Virginia-based space tourism company. Now, that's really interesting. Now, I remember when this stuff was happening, but I, personally don't remember there ever being any actual tourism flights. I remember like Richard Branson was trying to do it, and that one of the guys from NSYNC, I think, or Backstreet Boys, or one of those bands was trying to do it, right? But nothing ever came of it. So it's interesting that he invests, $4.5 million in 2008 for a deposit for a reservation on one of their proposed flights in 2011. And so I was like, oh, geez, did he actually go on this flight? Who was going on these space tourism adventures? And why didn't space adventures and this whole thing come up when I was researching Flat Earth all those years ago? Because, I really did, when I was first looking into the idea of Flat Earth, I watched a lot of videos and there was a lot of stuff out there and there was a lot of crap out there. And I really wasn't happy with like the scene, as it were, and all the pettiness and the name calling and things like that. After I became comfortable with my flat Earth knowledge, I became secure in it. I left flat Earth behind, the videos anyway. But I don't remember ever coming across anybody talking about these space adventures. So I was like, let's take a look at space adventures real quick. All right, here's their website. All right, space experiences. Here we go. Yeah, these are some space experiences you can have on your space adventure. And you can have a circumlunar mission. You can have you could go to the space station and go on a spacewalk. It's pretty unbelievable what they offer. And some of these pictures are great. Oh, here they are in their underwater tank. There was one great one. See the world as it was made to be seen. Made by who? Right, by the Google Computer Graphics division. So I wanted to find out more about space adventures. She's floating in space. There's even a much better one of a woman in space with really crazy hair. It's unbelievable. All right, but I wanted to find out more about space adventures. What could this be? Right? So it's an American space tourism company founded in 1998 by Eric C. Anderson, and offerings include zero gravity, atmospheric flights, orbital space flights, with an option to participate in a spacewalk. Zooming around the planet at 1,000 miles an hour. You can get out there, of course you can. So it says here, as of October 2009, 7 clients have participated in orbital spaceflight program with Space Adventures. 7. That's unbelievable. I haven't heard about any of them to my knowledge. Right? So, who is this Eric C. Anderson guy? So, who is Eric Anderson? Right? He's an American entrepreneur and aerospace engineer. Right? He's the co-founder and chairman of Space Adventures Limited, the first commercial spaceflight company. And he's arranged for 8 missions for privately funded individuals to the International Space Station since 2001. Right? Co-founding partner. He's a founding partner of Space Angels Network, the CEO of, and I love this, Intentional Software Corporation, right? Chairman of Planetary Power Inc., co-chairman of Planetary Resources, and chairman of Personal.com and Booster Fuels. All right, so it's unbelievable that he's from Littleton and he went to Columbine High, well before the shootings and everything. But if you've done any research into that at all, you know that Littleton has a huge military background. I've forgotten now who the company that the military contracts are there, but it's very interesting that that connection could be made. So in 1994, while he was at the University of Virginia, he interned for the founder and chairman of the X Prize Foundation, um, Peter Diamandis, right, in Washington, D.C., where he helped organize the Ansari X Prize, a competition for the first private sector manned spaceflight. So this is going to come in a little bit, but so he hits the ground running in DC and he hooks up with the right people to get this thing going. And so he carried out research at the Goddard Space Flight Center where Sergey Brin's mother worked. So kind of connection there, right? And so I think that's unbelievable. And so when I find out more about this Space Adventures Inc., right? They say it's the company headquarters is in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, with an office in Moscow. So while he's at the NASA Academy program in '95, he began thinking seriously about space tourism. Of course, he did, seriously thinking about it. And he co-founded Space Adventures with Diamandis and this McDowell guy. I'm not going to look into him right now. He originally started as to experience flights at the edge of space in MiG-25 fighter jets, airplane flights to experience weightlessness, and tours of the Russian, and I'm going to mispronounce this horribly, but it's Soyuz launches in Kazakhstan. So he has this big Russian connection to the Russian space agency, which is very interesting. So he gets involved in that, and he reaches an agreement with the Russian space agency to purchase seats on the Soyuz on behalf of private citizens. And so when I want to find out more about this company, right, the Space Adventures, right, it says that the company is headquartered in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, with an office in Moscow. When I look at where Tyson's Corner is, it's here, right, and here's Washington, right? So really close, offices here and in Moscow, which is very interesting, right? And so he sells the first one to this American businessman, Dennis Tito, for a reported $20 million, making him the first space tourist. Right? And so I was like, how come I don't remember any of this? Right? So many people went up, and then so they talk a little bit here about the people who go. This Mark Shuttleworth goes; he's worth $1 billion, and also a computer software programmer, and that's where he gets his money from. And he owns a huge plot of land on Isle of Man now. He's South African by birth. Um, Gregory Olson, who knows? And again, one thing I want to point out is a lot of these guys were older guys. This Dennis Tito's 60 something when he goes up. There he is, and I'm going to show a little bit more about him in a second. All right, the first female space tourist was this Anusha Ansari. Now that name should sound familiar because it's the Ansari X project or whatever that Eric Anderson helped get off the ground. And so this is that guy's daughter. And, so we have this Charles Simonyi, right, an ex-executive of Microsoft. So again, these are all pretty much people tied into the computer programming game or the space game, right? Because we have Richard Garriott here, the first second-generation U.S. astronaut, becoming the 6th client to travel, right? And then, the last one, in 2009, Cirque du Soleil founder, and that's interesting, Circus of the Sun, Guy Laberté becomes the first Canadian space tourist. Now, he's the only one really without a technology or computer programming or space background, but what his background is in trapeze and things like that. If you've ever seen a Cirque du Soleil show. So, I don't know. This woman, so English soprano Sarah Brightman was expected to become the 8th client, paying $52 million. However, the company announced in May 15 that Brightman had postponed her trip for personal family reasons. So between 2001 and 2009, they send up 7 people privately as quote-unquote tourists to the space station. And I'm like, I don't know, if I went to the space station, if I was a tourist, regardless of how much I had to pay, I'd be beating my chest. I'd let the world know. I mean, who knows? Maybe they all wrote books and stuff and they just flew under the radar because, for whatever reason, I missed it. But it just doesn't seem right that the flat earth community and those people making those videos, or on the other side of it, the science people, like the guy who I trolled, Science Man Dan. Why? Maybe he does. I only watched just, a couple of his videos, just enough to have a little fun. But, maybe he has done videos about this. But, so I wanted to find, there had to have been something. So I did find an interview with the first guy, Dennis Tito, on David Letterman. So let's watch a little bit of David Tito's interview with David Letterman. I'm going to watch about a minute of this here, and then a little bit of it later.
Welcome to the show. How long did this project take when you first got the idea to spend the money? And I assume you got that kind of dough. You're worth easily, you're like $500 million or something?
No, nothing like that.
How much are you worth?
That's a secret.
Enough to pay $20 million to the Russians?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's assume that you're worth $20 million $1.
I'd go.
And then how long, when did it begin? When did you have the idea? When did it start?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. And you had to approach the Russians somehow? How did you do that?
Well, I was on a business trip to Moscow. This is just before the Soviet Union came to an end. Mm-hmm. And I met with them to discuss their guest cosmonaut program.
And why were...
Okay, so what he said there was he went to Russia to meet with them about their guest cosmonaut program or whatever. No mention of space adventures or Eric C. Anderson. So that was kind of interesting.
Were they interested in it? Were they interested then purely in the money? Was that what it was? Yeah.
Nothing has changed.
And the $20 million that you paid them, will that make a difference in their space program?
Well, it represents about 15% of their budget.
Uh-huh. And their budget compared to the budget of NASA is
1%. 1%.
Look at Dave's face there. Right? So he's saying that the $20 million that he was willing to pay them would represent 15% of the Russian space program's budget in 2001. So, that puts their full budget, $250 million or something like that, not even. I don't know, I'm not doing that math, but, and that's only, and 250 million is only 1% of NASA's budget. That's billions of dollars, right? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Percent of the NASA budget.
Wow. Now, see, knowing this, I'm not sure I would have taken him up on the. You know what I
mean? Right? That's unbelievable. And I think the same thing. I mean, God, I mean, that's really just a fraction of what they put into it here in America. We can't get people up in space with any sort of consistency or regularity, can we? Right? We certainly haven't been back to the moon since 1972. So it's kind of unbelievable to me that he did not mention Eric C. Anderson or space adventures in that. So I wanted to look him up, right? And what is this guy? He's an engineer, multimillionaire, and the first space tourist that calls him. Right? So he's from New York, and he had a Bachelor of Science degree in astronautics and aeronautics, and a Master of Science degree from the engineering science from Rensselaer, which is a major engineering school. And I was unaware that they actually had a campus in Hartford. And he also works for the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, keeping everything in the family here. Right? He finds this investment firm, and so he becomes super rich, and that's kind of how that happens, right? So his space flight here, it says the first in a project first arranged by Mirkor, right, which was a Russian entrepreneur program. Now note the date on that, in 1999, but Eric C. Anderson had started his like in 97. So it was like Eric C. Anderson goes over there and says, "Hey, I can make you guys tens of millions of dollars, if you send, a civilian, quote unquote, into space." And Russia says, "Well, maybe we can make ourselves tens of millions of dollars." But this falls through, and he was criticized because, again, he was an older man, and this story gets deep. I could go more, but I don't want these videos to go on too long. And like I said, maybe I'll do a wayside on some of this stuff, which could end up being longer than this video. Right, and so it says later, through an arrangement with the space tourism company Space Adventures, he joins the Soyuz TM-32 mission on April 28th, and the spacecraft docked with the International Space Station, and Tito and his fellow cosmonauts spent 7 days, 22 hours, and 4 minutes in space and orbited the Earth 128 times. He performed several scientific experiments in orbit that he said would be useful for his company and business. Yeah, I'm sure he did. And he reportedly paid $20 million for this trip. And so, but since returning from space, he's testified at the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, and so on and so forth. And here's where I first went looking for it, because it said 10 years after his flight, he gave an interview to BBC. I did not find the BBC interview, but I did find this Letterman clip. Let's go back to that, shall we? Let me find where I want to go.
What part of, where is this? This is Russia is where you land?
No, it's in Kazakhstan. It's in a desert.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they're going to talk about the landing here, and I just wanted to show this real quick.
What part of, where is this? This is Russia is where you land?
No, it's in Kazakhstan. It's in a desert.
Uh-huh. And you just, I guess this.
And now, I kind of blew this stuff. But look at the way the parachute lands. So nice and perfectly flat. You get the full shape of it. Because that's the way, when you land, that's how the parachute lays, right?
This is where you were hit and dragged a little there, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then here's the recovery crew.
Right, you notice the capsule is on...
I saw it come down over there.
So they talk about how small it is, and I mean, just look at this thing, right? That's a great joke that he makes there, Letterman does. But so here it is. This is what they offer as proof for this guy going up into space, right? And they have the same pictures that they show all the time in all those NASA videos and flat Earth videos and science videos and everything else, right? But what was really interesting, and what the story really to me is, that there are and have been since 2001 like tens of millions, even $100+ million being funneled into the Russian space program by this American middleman, Eric C. Anderson, and his Space Adventures program that is who Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, is an investor in. Eric C. Anderson worked at the NASA Goddard Space Flight where Brin's mother worked. All of these people who go are technology people for the most part, or already involved in the astronaut in in the space program. And one thing I wanted to point out too, I didn't get to, was looking at the names here. I caught this name, right? This game developer, Richard Garriott, right? Now, when I was looking at the list of astronauts, there's Owen K. Garriott, who went to this same fraternity that Larry Page went to, right? So his son becomes part of this program, this Space Adventures program. There's Google is intimately tied up with this space tourism thing that is funneling money into Russia. And now it's been since 2009 since anybody's gone into space. And so, I don't know, money laundering, with Brin coming from Russia, it's a very strange thing to me, right? Especially with as little, hoopla as you hear about it. And also since there hasn't been one since 2009. Now, okay, I'm going to stop this here because this is actually a second take, because something very interesting happened to me that really left me, speechless is the wrong word, but really threw me for a loop at the end of the recording of the first take. And once I kind of looked back at all that, I realized I wanted to do a second take and kind of clean it up a little bit better than my editing could. And so I'm going to leave this one off here, and I'm going to conclude with the take that I did this morning. So one thing I just wanted to apologize for was going forward, I was so sort of taken aback by what's about to happen that I did not read all of the bubbles and whatnot. So I apologize for making you guys have to read some of that stuff. But I'm really amazed by what's about to happen, so I can't wait to share all that with you and share it with you going forward as well. So here we go with the end of take one. Here we go. Oh, they're available for questions. Let's do it. Let's see. I've had the window open so long they came to talk to me. Not too late. Let's see if they get back to me on that. 25 million in addition to space. So this is unbelievable. I'm so excited. They read it. Well, I wonder how long that's going to set up there for. But anyway, I'm closing this one. I'm wrapping this one up anyway. I don't think they're going to get back to me. Because I think you would have an answer. It's 25 million for the spacewalk. It's like going in and buying like eyeglasses or car insurance or something. They keep adding things on, and then you need your extended warranty and your scratch protection and your and your grand total is, I can't believe they just don't have a figure ready at 40 million bucks, for all the palms you got to grease and so on and so forth, right? Because I don't know, to me, $25 million, there are people out there who have that kind of money. I mean, why aren't they all doing it? I would do it, right? If I had $25 million. See, anyway. So the conclusion I was trying to draw is it's such a closed system. It's such a closed knit, such a close knit group of people and individuals involved in this weird space adventures program, involved in the formation of Google and Google Earth. And so that was, I mean, make your own conclusions, please. I'm not trying to draw anybody to a conclusion, but it's interesting that hundreds of millions of dollars have gone through this space adventures program, which is located just outside of Washington, D.C., and has offices in Russia, right? And it's telecommunications and all that other stuff. All right, so there's a really, really interesting story that can be told there. But anyway, so yeah, that's how we're being bamboogled. So let me see. Did they write back? They're not writing back. Oh, shoot. They're not writing back. Yeah, they're not writing back. So they got back to me. So it's around 75 million. So there we go. Let's see. Let's see what happens. I don't know how long it takes to type a yes or no answer. All right. The process typically starts with signing a mutual non-disclosure agreement followed by formal introductions and a meeting or phone call. I can send you the document for review and signature if you are seriously considering a spaceflight. I'm such an idiot. Uh, so there's our answer for why there hasn't been one, by the way, since 2009. All right, after NASA retired the space shuttle, flights to space for private individuals have become scarcer, but we do have a flight opportunity available. Now, the interesting thing about that is they didn't say anything about any of those former space flights going on a space shuttle. It was all through Russian craft. So I'm going to do this. They're going to send me an application or whatever. That's amazing. Well, I guess maybe they're not going to say goodbye. I don't know if Val's a male or female, but anyway, hopefully they send me an email and we're going to take a look at what it says and everything. That's going to be amazing. I can't believe it. So I'm gonna close this one off. If they get back to me, I'll record it again and give you the closeout there. But wow, I can't believe it. $75 million gets you into space. They have an opportunity available, and they're gonna send me an application. I'm so happy. All right, cheers, guys. So here it is. I got the email from Val Chepikin. All right, so here we go. They're in Vienna, Virginia. Oh my God. How can I make it readable? All right. So here it is, the mutual non-disclosure agreement. I have it. I'm gonna have to read it. It's 6 pages, but unbelievable! What an unbelievable way to end the video. I can't believe it. It could have turned out any better. So anyway, I'm gonna read through this and I'm gonna update you guys about it. And so there you go. This is the story of how Baltimore Fats got the non-disclosure agreement to become a space tourist. Cheers, guys.